Imperfect can have a special meaning. We already learned how to translate imperfect, and if you still do not know or are struggling in recognizing and translating imperfect, you can go and watch some of the videos on imperfect or imperfect with a pronominal suffix. In this video, we will cover only the special meaning in translation of the imperfect, not the form of the imperfect. So what is this special meaning? Imperfect can be used as an expression of a wish or a volition or a desire. Context is the only way we can determine this meaning. The only exception to this rule is the first person, which may include final he. It does not have to include the final he, but oftentimes it will have it, and that will help us know that this is a expression of a wish, desire, of a volition. Other than that, for a third or second person, the only way we know this meaning is from the context. So there is no new form that you need to memorize. In translation, these are the three ways of translating. For the first person, the special meaning is called cohortative, and in translation in English you can use like let or may. For example, let me clean my room, or may I clean my room. That is an expression of a wish or desire. I'm not saying that I will clean it, I am expressing my wish to clean the room. For the second person, this is called an imperatival use of imperfect, and in translation you can translate it exactly the same as you would a command or an imperative. In other words, you can translate it as clean your room with an exclamation mark. This is a command, and especially if you want to command someone something negative, then you have to use an imperfect, because as you know, imperatives in Hebrew cannot be negative. So in order to express a negative command, do not do something, you cannot use imperative, because imperatives cannot be negative, and therefore you have to use imperfect as in this special usage. And finally, the third person is jussive, and just like with the first person, you can use in English in translation words like let or may. Both of them express a desire or a wish. Let him clean his room. This is an indirect command. You cannot command someone who is not here, but you can tell someone else to go and make him command, right? So you can say, let him or may he clean his room. A little side note about the second person, the imperative. Sometimes it can be used as a stronger form of an imperative, and this works also in English. For example, with the word clean your room, you can say, if you have children, you can say clean your room with an exclamation mark. This would be an imperative. And if the child is stubborn, the child can go respond to you and say, no, I will not. And then you can respond back to the child and you can say, you will clean your room, period. This is sort of like a prophecy, and this is an imperative, and this is there is no argument. The child cannot say no, because you are concluding the conversation and you are saying you will clean your room. So this is a command, and this is an imperfect, and it works the same in Hebrew. This is a stronger way of commanding someone. There is no arguing with you will clean your room. You can argue with clean your room, but you cannot argue with you will clean your room, because you are already telling the person what he or she is going to do. You would know that only also from the context of the actual text. So here's a summary of perfect and imperfect. For a translation of a perfect, I built a house. It's a completed action in the past. I will build a house, or I will be building a house. It's an incompleted, so it's a future imperfect. If you are moving down, if you add a vav conjunction to perfect, it's still completed action, but now it is completed in the future. I will build a house. If you add it to imperfect, it is still incompleted, but now it's incompleted in the past. I was building a house. The house is still not finished with the imperfect, right? Or the emphasis is maybe finished, but the emphasis here is that you were doing the action, or I was doing the action, while here the emphasis is on completion of the action. Now we have such a thing as vav consecutive. We also covered it already. That is the same as vav conjunction, except it adds the idea of consecutive time. So after that, I was building a house. Here, this is just a list with vav conjunction. I was building a house, and I was eating, and I was sleeping. Here, it means after that, I was building a house, after whatever I did before. And finally, the final section here gives the three usages or special meaning of imperfects. It can mean cohortative for the first person, imperatival for the second person, or finally jussive for the third person. Note that cohortative may have a special form, may have a final he, but it does not have to be. For all of them, you will know these mainly from the context of the text. There is no special form, especially for the second and third person. In translation, cohortative, let me build a house, or let us build a house, first person. Second person, build a house, this is a command. And third person, jussive, let him or let her or let them build a house, or may they build a house. Here are 4 examples. Vayomer Elohim, Naaseh Adam Ba'tzalmenu. The first verb at the beginning of the sentence is amar, to speak. Yod is 3ms, imperfect. This is irregular kal because of the o. And we have a vav, and it is a consecutive. So it is like a regular vav, except it adds the idea of a consecutive time. So then, or after that, God, Elohim, means God, said, and this is what he says, Naaseh Adam Batzelmenu. Asa, this is a verb which means to make. With the nun, this is imperfect 1CP, first common plural. And this is actually a irregular kal. You don't need to know that. I know it looks like a he feel, but it is kal. And within the context, this is actually cohortative. So let us, or may we, an expression of a wish, may we make, or let us make Adam, or a man. Adam means a man. Betzelmenu, in. Tselem is an image, and nu is first common plural suffix our, so our image. Second example, V'nichreta berit imach. The first word is actually a verb, as usual in Hebrew. The verb is at the beginning. The verb is karat. Those are your 3 root letters, which means to cut. We have a nun at the beginning, and the nun at the beginning tells us it's a first common plural. We have a e that tells us that it could be kal, nifal, or hitpile. Hitpile would need extra tav. Nifal would need a dagesh in the first root letter, in the kaf here. And we don't have any of those, so it's a kal. And we have vav. In this case, it's just a conjunction. This is not a consecutive. So, and we will cut, but we actually have the final he. In this case, this is not a suffix. This is not third feminine singular suffix. This is just a sign of a cohortative. Again, it does not have to be there. Sometimes it is there, sometimes it's not there. When it is there, it just helps you to know that this is actually a cohortative. So it's an expression of a wish. This is not we will cut, but it is let us cut, or may we cut. This is an expression of a wish. Let us cut, or may we cut. Berit, it's a covenant. Im, imach. Cha is you, and im is with. So let us cut a covenant with you. In English, we don't cut a covenant, we make a covenant. So in English, you can translate it as let us make a covenant with you. Next example, Vayomer al tikra, and I'm just going to translate this, and he said, because this is so common and repeated so often that you should know the translation to know the parsing quickly. It is from Amar, it is Kal, imperfect 3ms, and this is Vav consecutive. So then he said, and this is what he said, Al tikra. We have a negation, so we know that this cannot be an imperative. And with the verb kara, we have a taf at the beginning that tells us it is either 2ms or 3fs. In the context, we actually know that this is 2ms, so it's you. We don't, in this text, you don't have enough context, so it could be theoretically both. And we have e underneath that tells us it could be kal, nifar, or hitpile. Hitpile would need extra taf, so it would tit. Nifal would need a dagesh in the first root letter in the kaf, so it would tit ka, and there would be a dagesh. And we don't have either, so it is kal. So do not, al, negation, do not. Karav means to come close, so don't come close. And he said, do not come close. And final example, Ya'avducha amim. Avad means to serve. You know the word eved, which means servant, and this is the verb of that word, which means avad, which means to serve. It starts with a yod, so it's a third masculine. If it has the u at the end, like in this case, it's plural, so it's a third masculine plural. This one is an irregular kal, so again, I know this looks like he feel you don't have to know that this is kal. You don't have to know why, that's for the next semester. So the translation will be they, the plural of third masculine, they will, avad, serve, and we have a cha, which means you, they will serve you. And based on context, again, here you don't have enough context, but if you had more context, you would know that this is a cohortative. So as a translation of a cohortative, you can say, let them serve you. And then we have a subject, whom, amim, peoples, plural of people. So let the peoples serve you, or let people serve you. One more thing to add, the special word, a little word called na. You had that already in your vocabulary. That is often added to either imperfect or an imperative. And it is a polite request for something. So if you see this on an imperfect or an imperative, you know that this is a polite way of saying something. It is often attached to a verb to signify a polite command. You can translate it as please, or sometimes you don't even have to translate it and just know from the context that it is a polite way of telling someone to do something. It is often used, point number 2, with people who are above the person or are important, like kings and lords and princes, etc., or when talking to God. And know that if you see na after an imperfect, it is most likely a special use of imperfect. Here are 2 examples. Adoni yidaber na avdecha. Adoni, that's Adon, means Lord or a husband, and E is my, so my Lord or my husband. We have the verb davar, which means to speak, and it's with yod, so it's a third masculine singular, and we have a na attached to it at the end with a makef. So this is a polite command or polite wish of expression of some kind of a desire. So my Lord, let him speak, future. And by the way, because of a shava, we know it's a PL, and we also have the dagesh in the middle, like PL always needs to have. My Lord, let him speak, avdecha, your your servant. So my Lord, let your servant speak, or please may your servant speak. So again, basically the na, it's a polite way of saying something. You can say please or may, or a polite expression of a desire, of a wish. My Lord, please let your servant speak. And final example, Ya'amad na David lefanai. We have word amad, 3 root letters, that means to stand, and we have a yod at the beginning, so this would be third masculine singular imperfect. And this, again, you don't have to know the stem because it is an irregular. It looks like he feel, but it is actually also kal. And again, you don't have to know this for this semester, that's for next semester. We also have na at the end attached with the makef. And so this tells us that this is going to be some kind of a special usage of the imperfect. And with the third person, therefore, it must be Joseph. Third person is Joseph. So we can start with please. That's one of the options for na, or you can just understand that this is a polite way of saying something. Please let him stand. And then we have David. So this is the subject. So please let David stand. Lefanai, before, and yod at the end is one cs suffix, so before me. So please may David stand before me. Again, this is kal and it is irregular, and you don't need to know at this point why or how to recognize it.